Above the table would be a face looking down on the action. He wanted to be able to recline in this throne-like chair and admire his handiwork of the skulls and the skeletons with candles burning, and had the magical idea that perhaps if he did that and did it just so, he'd be able to get in touch with some kind of higher power or evil power that would embolden him and make him able to commit these crimes.
He stated that the only time he ever consumed any body parts was one time, and it was the biceps. He states that he feels by eating parts of the victim, this was his way of keeping him even longer and making his victims part of himself. He then stated he didn't want to talk about it anymore.
On May 27, 1991, Dahmer lured Konarak Synthesymphone, a 13-year-old Laotian, to his apartment, offering him money to pose for photographs. This time, he wanted to try something different, to create a zombie, caught between life and death.
What he'd done to that boy had been a procedure that was known to the ancients as trephination, that is, to drill a hole into the skull, and then he'd injected acid into that hole with a turkey baster to try to damage the brain in what he thought of as a lobotomy. That would perhaps eliminate the will. The first time he tried it, he really did try to make it something like surgery. He got a surgical mask. He bought chloroform and ether. He found he didn't need them because the subjects were already so drugged they didn't respond to the drilling procedure. They didn't suffer any pain from that. He'd then go ahead and inject the substance and watch to see what happened.
When the boy failed to regain consciousness, Dahmer grew bored.
He stated that he left the apartment, went to the Gare Bear bar, and drank beer until closing time. After leaving the tavern, he observed the victim sitting completely naked on the southeast corner of 25th and State. And there were two black females standing by him, and they appeared to be hysterical. He walked up to the victim, whom he realized was speaking to the black females in Asian. At this time, he advised the ladies that the victim was in fact a friend of his, and that he attempted to pull the victim in the direction of his apartment when he noticed that the fire department had approached from the east end of the alley, and the Milwaukee police were coming from the west end of the alley.
So he comes forward, speaks to the police, knows that he has pictures that he's taken with this young Laotian boy in the house where the boy was clearly consenting, and is able to invite the police in and persuade them at that moment that this was just a battle between two men who were engaged in a consenting homosexual relationship. The police are convinced, and they leave.
And so the police leave, not knowing that there's a dead body in the bedroom with the closed door, that there are body parts in the refrigerator that he hadn't yet disposed of, and that there are a lot of body parts in the freezer that he hadn't disposed of.
Mr. Dahmer, at that point, however, does kill the young Laotian boy, now has two bodies in his apartment, goes on to kill several other people as the bodies continue to mount up, has the stench in his apartment so bad that the neighbors are complaining, begins to be so preoccupied with this that he loses his job and is not even turning up at work, and certainly, to me, at that point, seems to be a person absolutely out of control, where the only issue for him is to continue on and on and on like a steamroller out of control.
He had an enormous disposal problem on his hands. If he had completely devoted himself to disposing of those remains and done nothing else during his waking hours for the time he still had in the apartment, he probably could have made it. He gave up on the effort of trying to conceal this any further. He knew it was, at that point, inevitable he'd be detected. And so he went on with the same habit and brought yet another victim home.
That victim was Tracy Edwards, who made a successful escape and came back with the Milwaukee police. The trial lasted 2 weeks. On February 15th, 1992, after 10 hours of deliberations, the jury returned a verdict. On each one of 15 counts of murder, they found Jeffrey Dahmer legally sane and therefore guilty.
Your Honor, it is over now. This has never been a case of trying to get free. I didn't ever want freedom. Frankly, I wanted death for myself. This was a case to tell the world that I did what I did not for reasons of hate. I hated no one. I knew I was sick or evil or both. Now I believe I was sick. The doctors have told me about my sickness, and now I have some peace. I know I will be in prison for the rest of my life. I know that I will have to turn to God to help me get through each day. I should have stayed with God. I tried and failed and created a Holocaust. Thank you, Your Honor, and I am prepared for your sentence, which I know will be the maximum. I ask for no consideration.
He asked one of the examining psychiatrists if there was anyone else out there like him. The answer to that question is a frightening one. Yes, there are, probably a lot of them. And we'll be condemned to live with them unless we learn more about how compulsions like Dahmer's are formed and how they can be controlled. The lesson from Jeffrey Dahmer's life is that he is no monster at all. He is all too human.
I feel that I'm better off here than I...
You're glad you're in prison.
I think it's best for everyone, right?
In March, we profiled Jeffrey Dahmer, who confessed to killing 17 young men and is serving a series of life prison terms.
I tried to create living zombies.
Early this month, another inmate tried to cut Dahmer's throat with a homemade knife during a chapel.